Hey y'all, it's your girl, Mrs. D Green. I hope you're having a fabulous Monday. I myself am having a fabulous Monday. It is Monday, April 7th, 2025. And your girl's in New York right now. That's why I don't have my little normal setup. Um, man, travel day. Travel day started at 6 in the morning. And we got to New York, got into our hotel by 3, and we're on the same time zone. So that was like a 8-hour travel day because we had a layover in Washington. But we've gotten dinner and we're now relaxing at the hotel. I asked my daughter if she wanted to go out to Times Square, and she's like, no, I don't want to go out. So we're going to save that for maybe sometime this week. So we're just going to relax today. But what I'm going to do now is talk to y'all about White Lotus season 3, season finale, episode 8. Y'all, I wasn't ready for that. I actually watched it yesterday and I was too emotional. I could not recap it. I was like, I think I'm going to have to wait on this one because I was not ready. I was not ready. I mean, granted, there were clues that led to what ended up happening, but again, like when it hits you like that, it's like, oh, oh. All right. With that being said, before we get into it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Okay. Now let's get into this. Okay. Bear with me, y'all. This one's a doozy. I got 3 full pages, front and back of notes. If you are a Friends fan, you understand the front and back reference. All right, so the episode is titled Amor, Fati. That basically means that everyone has to resign to their fate or accept their fate for what it is, whether it be good or bad. So we're all destined to have to answer to our fate one way or the other. Now, the beginning scene starts out with the monk kind of having like this narration, speaking about anxiety, such as how he spoke about death. So in this speech, he's speaking about how, and I was like, oh, okay, I think, I can accept that because I'm a naturally anxious person. So I was like, yeah, sometimes you just got to let things go. It's basically accepting that, sometimes there are things that have no resolution. And once we accept that, we are able to make peace with the situation. So, yeah, I agree with that. There was one situation I was involved in with someone that kept rearing its ugly head, and we could never have resolution because he wouldn't give peace on the issue. So I was like, all right, I like that whole spiritual, accountability and reassurance that this season alone preaches. Like the first season didn't really talk about spirituality and religion. Second season, kind of murky on the memory there, but if I'm recalling, I don't really remember a lot of talk about spirituality and religion. So I do like the spin that they took with this season, and they used Buddhism as the major religion, which kind of added a peaceful element, even though there was like, chaos and disturbances. When you agree, there was kind of a peaceful element to this season, but let's get back on going on a tangent. All right, so as the monk is speaking in the background about anxiety, I noticed that there were certain characters, not all the characters, where they panned on their faces, so they highlighted them. So I made note that it was Tim, Belinda, I think Gary was another one of the characters. So I just bring that up because it's like, well, maybe these characters in general are the ones that have to accept that there's not going to be the resolution that they want, but if they find some sort of resolution, they're able to come to terms with it, which it will make sense in the later parts of the episode once I start explaining it. All right, so Jacqueline, she asked Lori to breakfast, goes to the scene with them, and at first Kate proposes that she'll go ask Lori for breakfast, but Jacqueline insists because she wants to go in and apologize to how she's behaved over the trip. And she apologizes to her about Valentin or however she made her feel, and Lori accepts it, but she still declines to go to breakfast because Lori's kind of in her own funk right now. She didn't really. The trip didn't really pan out, the way that she thought it would for her. Like, she didn't get the satisfaction she thought she would by doing what she did. So, and then she's looking at her friend, so I could understand why she's probably not, having that peace or satisfaction. All right, so we go to a scene with now Piper and Lachlan. So, Piper, she's starting to feel the pressure, and she's really not feeling that Lachlan is attached to this whole idea of following her while she goes on the intensive program. So she tells Lachlan, because, Lachlan's trying to dial in and, figure out what's going on with her, because he can also pick up that she's sort of pushing him away. And she tells him, let me mess up my own life. She didn't say mess up. She said fuck up. Let me fuck up my own life, not your life. Like, basically telling him to back off and let her explore this independently. So, all right. So they go back to the room and Victoria, she's asking them, all these questions about how it was. And Piper's being vague. Lachlan's kind of following her lead. So he's, noticing, all right, if she doesn't want to talk about it with them, I'm not going to go into it, with them either, because Lachlan is a people pleaser, and he does admit this later in the episode that he's a people pleaser. So they're probing, and then Piper, she says, we'll talk about it at breakfast, and Victoria's like, oh, indeed we will. Because remember, Victoria prayed that she wouldn't enjoy herself at the monastery. So then they ask, she asked Lachlan when Piper goes into the room to go get ready to go for the day. He says, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know, and then he walks away. And I was thinking, like, when he said that further shows his detachment, because yes, I understand that you may be dialed into Piper not wanting to discuss at length her experience, or, hold on, my nose ring. Or the experience in general. But if you are attached to the idea, can you at least give them some sort of opinion of your own? And that, again, goes with the way Lachlan functions on other people's plane of reality and not his own plane of reality. Because if he was functioning on his own plane of reality, no matter what you're trying to do in terms of trying to distract people, you can still offer an opinion. And Lachlan could not. So I noticed that. I was like, you can't even tell him, you like the food or whatever, or you didn't like the food or something. All right, so Belinda and Panchai. Zion and Belinda are at breakfast, and then Panchai walks over to the table to kind of just briefly, touch on them starting their business together. And then Zion is trying to push Belinda to go for that offer so that she can start her business. And of course, Belinda is still reluctant given the fact that it comes with someone dying as a way for her to, have hush money. Somebody had to die and she has to be complicit in that, and she doesn't want to be complicit in that. All right, so now they're at breakfast. Piper and Tim, I believe it was. Yeah, it was just the three of them because Lachlan didn't want to go to breakfast. So they're asking her how it was, and Piper's kind of like going down this whole, circle in the drain, and then she finally gets to the point, and she's like, admitting maybe I'm not cut out for it. And then she speaks about how the food wasn't good, and she noticed that the room, like, it wasn't comfortable, like she that whole spider web and the dirt in the corridor, and then she in turn admits to herself, she's like, well, maybe I do need these creature comforts. I shouldn't be so attached to this stuff, and I feel so bad about it, but I can't help it. It's what I'm used to. And, I can't deny that. This is who I am. And Victoria is ecstatic. She's like, I know, honey, I know. I mean, on one hand, yeah, it's not good for us to be attached. We should not be of the world. But at the same time, I mean, you don't try to be something you're not. If you're not, a person that is humble enough to where you could really sacrifice and walk away from all of that stuff, don't try to, you can try it out, but don't try to immerse yourself into a culture or a belief system that's not of you, because you're going to always be out of alignment, and you're not going to be at peace with yourself because you're going to be trying to be something that you can't be. So Tim, though, because remember, Tim, he wants his family to detach, or at least be comfortable with detaching from their creature comforts, because of what's looming in the background. So now Tim's like, oh, now you too? Because you have Saxon saying he has nothing without his career. Victoria has already admitted that she was not meant to live an uncomfortable life. So now Piper is a problem, and we'll get into that later. All right, so now we have Saxon and Lachlan back at the room. So Saxon's being very distant. Before in the season, Saxon was very, let me mentor my little brother. Let me love on you. Let me, remember trying to get him to take the shakes and explaining to him the benefits of the shakes. So Lachlan, picking up on this distance, is trying to, have a conversation with him while Saxon is getting ready to go out. I believe he's going to the beach. And then he asks Lachlan, very, not even engaged, not making eye contact with him or anything. He's like, have you seen my book? He's like, yeah. Lachlan's trying to talk to him. He's like, so I was thinking about trying one of those shakes that you always talk about. Saxon doesn't bite. But what Saxon does say is, look, dude, I don't care. It's not okay to worship me. You can admire me, but don't worship me. Like, basically, like, don't be sexually obsessed with me. It's weird. And so, this is when Lachlan did kind of activate, and you saw, okay, you do have a little bit of a pulse in there. He's like, look, dude, it's not that I was obsessed, and it's just, I didn't want you to feel left out, and when everything was going on, and, I'm a people pleaser, and I just wanted to make sure you were pleased. I'm in a family full of narcissists, so, and then boom, Saxon cuts him off. He's like, look, it's not okay. Like, just, let's not do this again. Well, we don't have to talk about it or whatever. But Lachlan was, about to speak his speech, as shout out to Misha, in my opinion, speak his speech. And he got cut off. But I was like, yes, that's some good insight as to why Lachlan moves the way that he moves, because he is in a family full of narcissists. He's the baby, and he wants to get in where he can fit in. So if he has to move with you so that he can be seen and appreciated, that's what he does. But it's sad that in that context you felt like you had to do that for your brother. So I don't know. So Saxon, he leaves, takes the book that Chloe gave him to the beach, and goes to sit at the beach. We get to a quick scene with Lori looking at Jacqueline and Kate in the pool, and she's kind of like looking at them like, like she admires them, but, she doesn't feel fulfilled. Like, she still feels like there's something empty inside of her. Or at least that's the look she gives off, looking at her friends socialize, friendly in the pool. All right, so Valentin and Guy talk. Valentin approaches Guy Talk and asks him, what did he do after the fight and how come they didn't connect? And Guy Talk's like, I was on a date, but he also noticed that Valentin was with two guys. And if you look at this scene, I'll try to describe it as much as I can. It's almost like, it's like two people know there's this internal secret, but none of them want to like cop to it. So they're sort of telling the other person that they know the secret, but they're not saying it out loud. They're saying it with their body language and some of the lead-ins to the conversation or the next part of the conversation. So after Guy Talk says he was on a date and then asks him about the three guys, he's like, who are those three guys? Like, those two guys that you were with. And Valentin's like, oh, they're just, I wasn't really hanging with them. They're just guys I know from the gym. Why are you asking? And he's like, I don't know. He was like, I think I know them. I think I recognize them from somewhere. And there's this tense exchange because the Valentine's like, you could tell he looked like, oh shit, you you must know something. All right, so now we're at the beach with Saxon and Chelsea. Gives Chelsea her book, and they're talking about the book, and he's telling Chelsea he really appreciates it, and then they start, going into this dialogue. They would have been so cute together. I really wish things could be different because of what happened, but we won't talk about it. All right, so Saxon says he really likes the sex stuff that's in the book, and Chelsea laughs, because at this point she accepts Saxon. She finds the endearing parts to him, his wankerism, as she called it earlier. So she doesn't get offended or snap at him. She's like, that's not what it's about. It's about us having connection with each other through groups. We have the human connection that flows through all of us. And then Rick walks up. So, when Rick comes back, she leaves him right in the wind, and she goes to her beloved, and they embrace and they walk away. And Saxon, he takes the L, but he's looking at them at admiration, all right, that's something I could see myself getting into. Because remember, Saxon was all about the BDE and having power and not really having that connection with anyone. He was very surface. So Saxon has kind of gone through this transformation, you can see, whereas you can tell when he goes back home, he's going to have a different outlook on life. All right, so now we have Piper and Victoria shopping. And they're just that dialogue in the background. They're just talking like two privileged women, just shopping with not a care in the world. In the background, we have Tim and Lachlan. And Tim asks Lachlan just randomly, do you think you could survive without money? Lachlan thinks about it. He's like, yeah, I think I can. And then that gives Tim satisfaction. So he tells Lachlan to go swim, and he's, having his thoughts. So he has, I'm trying to remember if Tim recalled in his memory what Pam said about the fruit, because I think there was a flashback where he remembered, there's that fruit seed, that poisonous fruit seed. Because not too long after that, he goes to go grab the fruit. But before that happens, Valentin, I guess, wants to level with Guy Talk and goes over to him. And he's like, I know that you know. And Guy Talk's like, trying to not really have a discussion about it. Valentin goes into this whole, diatribe about how they did what they had to do because they don't have a way to work on the island. So they're forced to commit crimes so that they could survive. They cannot go back to their respective countries because they will be killed. And, he's begging Guy Talk not to say anything because they'll be deported, and then that's the end of them. So Guy Talk, feeling conflicted, at this point, he doesn't know what to do because, what do you do with that? Honestly, what do you do with that? If I were him, I don't know if I would want to tell. I probably would want to do what he eventually said that he wanted to do because, quite frankly, that's too much pressure when you start looking at the grand scheme of things. It's like these people are, I don't know. I take that back. I probably would want to do something. I probably would because immigration's a touchy subject. I'll just say that. And yes, they're doing things out of survival. Let's just go to the next topic. All right, so Tim goes to go grab the fruit. And while he's grabbing the fruit, Pam walks up on him. And he's like, didn't you say something about this fruit having something poisonous about it? She said, yes, the seeds are poisonous. Not the flesh, it's the seeds. And then she says, the locals call it the suicide tree, which is ironic given what's going on. And he's listening to her, and she says they call it that because when people want to end their lives, they grab that tree and they use it for what its intention is to kill. Side note, why would that resort have that poisonous tree on the property? If I own that resort, wouldn't you get rid of it? Sounds like a liability to me. I mean, the tree's not even all that cute, so it's not like it's there for decorative effect. So I don't know. I was just like randomly like, if I own that place, if it's poisonous, I don't want anybody on the island getting a hold of it and, on my watch something happening to them. All right, so this next scene. This one kind of had me on the edge of my seat. So Belinda and Zion, they go meet with Gary. And, I was kind of like, damn, like, oh my God, oh no, like cringing, right, throughout this scene. So Belinda's she's not really talking. Now this is when Zion steps in, and I was actually surprised at his negotiating skills. He starts the conversation out with, MBA, because that's what he's studying. He's getting his MBA. And, he starts telling him that he's done a little research and that initial offer is more or less not going to stand. So he counters with $5 million instead of $100,000. Gary, of course, rejects, and then Zion lays it out for him. He's like, look, dude, I know she was worth, your late wife was worth $500 million, $500 million, okay? $5 million is only 1% of that. And I know all you want is peace of mind at the end of this. So isn't 1% a small fortune to pay for a peace of mind for the rest of your life? And he was like, with that 1%, you'll have 99.9% of that worry off of your hands. And I was like, hey, if Gary was smart, he would jump on that. I mean, that is a big jump, $100,000 to $5 billion, but peace of mind, right? You don't want this chasing you for the rest of your life. So, this one, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is gonna happen, because Gary did not, admit, he didn't agree to it or anything, but Zion left him with Belinda's bank number and routing number, her account number and her routing number. So if Gary decides to go with it, make that deposit. All right, so then it cuts to a smaller scene where you have Guy Talk praying because Guy Talk is feeling very conflicted about decisions he has to make and how it affects him in his religion. Tim is grabbing seeds, more fruit, more seeds, cutting them up, grabbing as much as he can. And then we get to a scene with Guy Talk and Mook. So Guy Talk tells Mook that he thinks he's going to quit because what's required of him, he does not feel. And I guess this is after he's prayed and just thought about everything he's dealing with. He does not feel he would be able to inflict violence on anyone or do something out of his character, because his teachings and his practices teaches him to live one way, and he doesn't want to go against that because he won't be happy. And Mook is not happy with this because she says, well, if you quit, you're going to have to start all over. Do you want to do that? I thought you were more ambitious. I thought you would have seen this as some sort of stepping stone and acted on it. And he's like, but it's not me. And she's like, well, don't you want to be more confident? He's like, I feel more confident when I feel good about myself. So in a sense, he's saying if I do something that's against my will, I'm not going to feel good about myself. So then he follows up with, trying to ask her out. She kindly, pushes him away because he's turned her off. And now, she doesn't see him as the man she envisioned. So she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And yeah, that's where we left with them at that point. All right, so now we go to dinner. Tim, they're all sitting at the table, in a good mood because this is their last night. Tim asked the waitress if they could bring some mixers for pina coladas to the room because the blender's there and he's got the seeds. He's been mashing them up, getting them all ready. And Saxon is surprised because Saxon's like, you don't drink. So Saxon's not, okay, you want to drink? And then Victoria's like, okay, we're going to party it up. And then Lachlan, he wants to try one. He wants to get in on this, and Tim tells him no, because in Tim's mind, he's decided, I'm going to suicide the four of us because these three can't live without their comforts. I can't live with myself knowing that I put my family through that. And now that you have told me that you could live without money, I don't want to take your life. Yeah, and you're also the youngest. So Tim is like telling Lachlan the whole time, and remember this, no, I don't, like in his, we know he's telling him, I don't want you to die. I don't want to kill you. That's why he's refusing for him to drink. And then it goes to a scene where Belinda and Zion they're checking her account. Hold on, my nose ring is crooked, y'all. Hold on. All right, so I think it's still crooked. All right, so they're checking the account. There's nothing added in there. At that point, when I was looking, I was like, damn, I think they fucked up. Because, mind you, Gary's diabolical. So, like, if he feels like you forced his hand, there's no telling what he's capable of. And that's what I kept feeling like, oh, no, he's not going to give them that. And they're kind of, like, left at a loss. Like, they've basically pissed this man off, and they think they're going to get $5 million, and they haven't gotten it yet. So I was worried. I was so worried. All right, so we get to a scene with Chelsea and Rick. And I forgot to tell you, I missed the whole part. Rick, before he gets back to the resort, he's leaving the hotel he was at with Frank. And, you know, Frank is partying, going. And, you know, Rick is like, I want to leave. Like, he's at peace with now where he is in life. He's given up on the whole revenge. So now let me get back to the scene. They're sitting at dinner, he and Chelsea. And Rick, you can tell he does seem like he's at peace. Like, he's not on edge. He's very present. He's very friendly, very aligned with Chelsea and like the tone that she has in the conversation. You know, she's telling him how she loves him and that they're going to be together forever. She kind of said this to test the waters, right? And then Rick says, well, yeah, that's the plan. And then she gets so emotional and she starts crying. She's like, yes, we're going to be together forever, even if it killed me or something like that. She said, if you died, I would just follow you in the afterlife and be with you forever. So she's manifesting this. She keeps speaking how much she loves Rick and she's going to be with him no matter what. Even if he has something that happens bad, she in turn is going to suffer with him because that's how linked she is to Rick, which I don't know. I'm at an age now where that whole like ride or die kind of love, yeah, it was beautiful, right? But now I don't know if I have that in me. I cannot love someone so much that I am tied to their bad karma, that I want to suffer with them. And my recent ex, he actually, from the way I believe and how my God teaches me, some stuff that he had done, he had not apologized about it. He felt like he wasn't in the wrong for some things that he did. And so because of my spiritual growth, I knew I had to detach from him because there were things that were happening in my life I felt as bad luck as a result to me being linked to him. So when Chelsea's saying this, I'm like, oh no, she's so young. Like, why does she feel like she has to die on the cross for this man? Like, I know she loves him, but why, you know? So, anywho. So, now we get to, dinner. They're at a different table with the three friends. And I thought this was sweet. So they're all talking and, reflecting on the trip. And Jacqueline says that she's leaving happy. She had a good experience with her friends. She's like, I may not be the best person, but, if I get to have moments like this with you guys, it makes it worthwhile. I'm satisfied. And then Kate thanks her for, the trip, and they tells her that they appreciate her. And then Lori, she says she's leaving the trip sad. She says she's leaving sad because, she's tried everything, and she feels like as you get older, you have to justify your choices. And she's tried to find happiness through everything, and it just slapped her in the face. She tried to find happiness through love. Love ended up hurting her. She tried to find happiness through her career. Career ended up not satisfying her. She says that religion, she can't find happiness through that because, it just doesn't work for her. So she says she doesn't need to find happiness through something. Even motherhood. She said motherhood doesn't satisfy her. She said what she's learned is you have to, your life is given meaning by time, not by things that define your life. And she's just happy to be have a seat at the table with her two friends, Kate having the beautiful life and Jacqueline being pretty and having the fortunate life that she has. She's just happy that she's within proximity. And y'all, I was like, because the actress was crying and I was like, I feel her. And I'm glad she put a voice to it because I feel like a lot of people, but mainly women, like we have to wear so many hats. And sometimes we wear these hats and we're not happy with wearing these hats, but we're forced to, right? And some of them are a result of choices and some of them are because we have no choice. These are things that we're left with. And so in Lori's case, she's got the successful career, but she was overlooked. She's a mother, but her daughter is struggling, due to the divorce and everything else she's dealing with. And then, she thought she had love, and now she's having to be paid palimony and constantly reminded of that love being, failing, and then she has to pay a debt for it. So it broke my heart when she just came out with it. Like, I make my choices, and I made my choices, and I just, when it comes down to it, I can't keep trying to be happy through other means. I have to just let life happen and, be happy with the time that I spend living life. And that's what's going to make me happy. Y'all, I was like, oh my God. Why y'all getting me here? All right, so now we get to the Ratliffs. After dinner, they're back at their room. Tim's making the drinks. He has ground up the seeds and, mixed them into the pina colada. Pours 4. Lachlan's not going to get one, but Lachlan keeps asking if he can have one. And he's like, no, you're not going to take one. So Tim goes into this speech and he says that he's just happy and proud of his family. And we know it's coming off as a final speech. And, they're all loving on each other and in this warm embrace and they're happy. And they don't realize he's about to Jim Jones them. But Saxon's the first one to notice that the drink smells funny. So he's like, this doesn't smell like a normal pina colada. It's weird. And then everyone's like kind of smelling it and tasting it. And he's like, oh, it's something Tim said. Something about he said it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. They all start drinking it, like sipping it slowly. And then Tim gets a wave of guilt. And he has second thoughts. And he slaps the drink out of Saxon's hand at first. Then he's like tasting it, pretending to taste it. He's like, oh, the coconut milk went bad. Takes all their drinks, dumps it. And he ended that murder-suicide plan. He decided to not go through with it. When I tell y'all I was so happy, I didn't predict that he would do that, but I was happy that he did. But at the same time, I kind of felt like he would, because you had to be in the scene watching it to see why you kind of had that wave of emotions. Like, is he really going to go through with this? No, he's not going to go through with this. But I was happy. I was so thankful he didn't go through with it. So then we get back to Gary and Belinda and Zion's story. Gary still has not replied. Now we go to the Hollingers arriving at the resort. And Guy Talk, Valentin's standing over with them, greeting them. Fabian's over there. Guy Talk staring in the distance. Valentin's looking tense, rightfully so. Guy Talk tries to quit. He's talking to Lek. Lek tells him, you don't want to quit, give it some time. This will be the worst decision. Like basically telling him like, give it some time, relax. I understand that you feel like this is not in you, but you're a very good worker and I see some great things, happening for you. So, lay low, chill out. All right. So now things start to kind of take a turn. So I forgot to read the HBO description of this episode, and I'm just going to say it because I'm going to go into the next few scenes and explain behind that statement. So HBO just described this episode as everyone gets their karma, right? All right, so let's start with Belinda. Belinda looks in the computer, she's checking her account, and sure enough, she's $5 million richer. I was like, wow, kudos to Zion, a hell of a negotiator. I commend you. Okay, this is good. And they're happy. And let me see. Oh, she reminds him to don't forget to attend the session that she set up with Amrita, because this is the day of. So this is, okay, so we're at the day of, remember at the beginning of the series, not the series, but the season, Zion is sitting with Amrita and there's gunshots in the background, right? So just remember that. Then we get to Lachlan. Lachlan gets up, goes into the kitchen. Side note, the blender wasn't clean from the night before, and Lachlan didn't think to rinse it out. But remember, the blender had remnants of the seeds in there. So Lachlan makes a shake. He drinks the shake, goes out to the pool. It's a slow drink, so it's a build-up. Then we go back to the breakfast area at the resort. Now, Mr. Jim Hollinger walks over to Rick and asks him basically why is he there. Tells him, you came into my home, you lied to my wife, you insulted me, and then you pushed me over. You need to get the hell out of here. Get out of here, And he's like, and I didn't kill your father. You're not only was your mother a slut and a drunk, she's a liar, saying that your father was this great guy. Your dad was no saint. And this pisses Rick off. This triggers Rick. Now, Rick was already at a place of peace. This did a whole 180 and then some on him because he starts spiraling. He shows Jim, that he has a gun on the side of his jacket because he could see that Rick is getting worked up, and he's like, but what you gonna do? Like, more or less, like, what you gonna do? I wish you would. I wish you fucking would. And so, Rick is not armed, so he has to back off. Goes over to the table with Chelsea, and he is naturally, because he's so pissed, he's like, I need to go see my lady. We know it's Amrita, because, Amrita and him had a couple of sessions where there was some breakthrough. And he's going through it. Leaves. Chelsea naturally is worried about him. So she's like, well, why? Like, what do you need? He's like, I just need to go. Now we flash back to Lachlan. Lachlan's sitting on the side of the pool getting visibly sick. Victoria, Piper, and Saxon, they get up, they're walking past him, they're like, we're going to go to breakfast, are you going to join us? Lachlan can't really speak, so then they don't even notice or think to ask, I guess because they're on vacation and they trust him, they don't think to check on him. But I was just thinking, like, why don't y'all go see what's up with him? If you notice he's not answering, why don't you go see if he's okay? But no, they go to breakfast. Tim stays behind because Tim, lorazepam stupor, is tired and needs to relax. And as they leave out, Lachlan, he passes out. He's fallen over and he's kind of convulsing, and the seeds are starting to get to him because remember, he made that protein shake. He did not clean out the blender, and it had remnants of the seeds from the night before. So he is drinking the poisonous seeds and not even realizing it. So Now we're at a full circle moment. Zion walks, he's going to the treatment. He's talking to Amrita. And he's like, okay, yeah, my mom set this up or whatever. And she's checking him in. Rick rushes over to them and he's like, I need to see you. I need to see you. And Rita's like, look, basically, I gotta tend to him. Can you come back in an hour? Sit here. I will be with you as soon as I'm done with him. So, she tells him to sit at a bench. Rick is still upset. He sits though because it's important that he talks to her. Now we go back to the scene with Lachlan. Lachlan's laying out on his back. He's convulsing. He's having flashes of his life before his eyes. He pictures his family, images of his family. There's this flashing light. You know how they always talk about the light, right? When you're at the end, there's this flashing light, and then boom. Lachlan is submerged in water. And all I kept thinking about was what the monk said about dying, how, we start out, as a collective, and then life for the individual is a droplet of water that ascends. And then once you have reached full consciousness, then you go back to the body of water, and that is death. So that's what I was thinking when Lachlan was floating in the water, that he is, because we know he's dying because of the poison, he's back at the full consciousness. He's a part of the collective again. And as he's looking up, he's like fighting, right? He's still fighting for his life. So he's trying to swim back up. And then there's these 4 heads that he sees above the water. And I believe these are the 4 monks or the 4 Buddhas or the 4 gods, whatever they are. I'm sorry I didn't research and add that to it, but you got some homework, okay? But in all seriousness, yes, he sees the 4 heads. And once he looks at the heads, the fight for his life stops. He just resigns to it and floats down. He's drowning, and Lachlan died. Y'all, that's what I'm saying. I was like, oh my gosh, the friends, and then Lachlan, and just gay talk, being put in this dilemma. Like, I was a mess, y'all. I was so emotional. I was like, Then Tim wakes up. Because remember, he stayed behind. And, Tim is out of it. Goes into the kitchen. Looks at the blender. Notices that the blender looks like it was used. Then he looks out because the pool is within sight in the kitchen. He sees Lachlan. Goes out there to him. Grabs his son's lifeless body. He's crying. He's yelling for help. And this is the son that just told you he would be at peace if he had nothing. And then all of what is happening, the fact that you were going to attempt to kill them and you didn't clean out the blender. Tim it was a lot. That was another emotional thing, because I'm like, why did Tim have to find him? Y'all, I wasn't ready. Even now, y'all can tell I'm still kind of emotional, because I was just like, oh my gosh, like, this is a lot. This is some good ass writing. You go, Michael Wright. You go. All right, so now Rick is still waiting, right? And he sees Jim with Sritala and the 3 friends and Fabian and the guards, right? So he's scoping out. He's like Tim is emotionally bottling up. You can see it. It's building up. Not Tim, I'm sorry, Rick. Building up. Like, this was some good acting. The 3 friends, they happen to be there because remember, Sritala wanted to take a picture with them, so she gets her opportunity. She's with them or whatever. Goes to another scene because it flashes back and forth here. Belinda. Now that Belinda is Brand New Money, she sees Porn Chai because now that she's $5 million richer, she's got a different perspective on life. Sees Porn Chai, lets him down gently and says, while it sounded like a good idea, she's gonna explore other options. Something came up. And you know what I was thinking? Go to my season 1 recap. And that's exactly what happened to Belinda in season 1. Tanya ended up not coming through with her end of the bargain for the business proposal, that is, because something came up. So it's like, oh, now you're in Tanya's shoes, kinda. So went full circle for her. And then Tim's karma, for everything that's been going on and for all that and what you planned and what you almost carried out, for the one son that told you he could live without, for him to be the one that you find dead and you're more or less responsible for it, that was kind of Tim's karma. It was you really saw the theme of karmic return in this episode. So now we go back. Rick is still staring and he snaps. He gets up, walks right over to Jim, says fuck you, opens up that jacket, because remember, Jim flashed him with that gun, takes the gun out, pop, shoots Jim right there. Kills him right in front of the 3 friends who run. Fabian had the camera. Fabian comedically falls into the water out of fear. The guards, who suck by the way, they hear these gunshots and, for some reason they had walked away. One walked away to go smoke and one walked away to go do something stupid. But they weren't tending to Jim because that's how Rick was able to gain access to him. So by the time they've, heard the gunshots and now they're running to Jim, well, Rick is a good shooter, by the way, shoots both of them dead before they could even get close. And then Sritala asks, she's like, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Crying to Rick. He's like, because he killed my fucking father. Y'all, Sritala then says, he is your father. He is your father. He told me. He just told me. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So Rick's karmic return, being so consumed with the past, it ate at him, and it was based on a lie. And so I was like, wow, I know him finding that out in that moment. He probably didn't care because it's like, well, I mean, you can't care. What's done is done. But I know that it had to mess with him when he heard that. So then Guy Talk is in the security booth. He hears these gunshots, right? So instinctually, Guy Talk grabs the gun, runs out to see what's going on. And Rick is still shooting, just to make sure he has shot the 2 guards. So he's, looking around. Chelsea was actually following him, and she got caught in the crossfires, and so now Chelsea has been shot. So Chelsea's fighting for her life, and Rick is now distraught at this point because he's losing the love of his life before his eyes. And he picks her up, tries to walk away with her, and he's telling her, he's like, we're going to be together forever. We're going to be together forever. I love you. I'm so sorry. Like, just pleading to her, apologizing. And remember, Chelsea said, bad things come in threes. She almost lost her life at the robbery, almost lost her life at the snake show, and she has now lost her life because of Rick. She her karma, which is sad because she chose to attach herself to someone that was so damaged and had so much misfortune in their life that they were willingly bringing on too. It wasn't like it was just happening to them beyond their choice. Rick was making choices to make his life harder. So that's why I say, like, I just that I don't feel that's healthy. To if you know someone is self-sabotaging, you cannot commit to them, because here's this pure, sweet, just angelic girl of a woman. You know, she's such a great person. For her to attach herself to someone that's so dark, and then it's a part of her demise. It's much to her demise. It was sad, and that's why I was like, I wish she would have just gave up on Rick and decided to start dating Saxon, because at least she'd be alive. You know, if she would have changed her karma by making a different choice. But no, you wanted to be his hope, and there it is. So. Now, Gaitak, at this point, Rick has picked her up. He's walking out. Gaitak has now made it to the scene. And Sritala tells Gaitak, why are you standing there? Why are you just standing there? Like, do something. Do something. He went that way. So Gaitak, he's like, okay, runs, goes to look for him, finds Rick. Sritala is yelling, shoot him, shoot him. Gaitak's struggling. She keeps yelling, shoot him, shoot him. And remember, the words themselves, what Mook said, you know, sometimes violence is a choice we have to make in this life. In that moment, Gaitak makes the choice, shoots Rick. Rick falls into the water with Chelsea in his arms. And just like they said, they ended up dying together, so they are going to be together forever in the afterlife. Y'all, I was so emotional when I saw them both. Because I was hoping he was going to be able to get her somewhere to where she could survive. But, when they both died, I was just like, no, not them two. Not them two. Those are the two guests that died. And Lachlan. But, hold on. So now we go back to the scene with Lachlan and Tim. And Lachlan actually survives. And now I think not only the karmic return, but there is, and I believe it is through Buddhism, there's this belief that when someone dies, someone is born, right? So they say at death, there's a baby that's born. I feel like when both Chelsea and Rick died, then that was Lachlan's way of coming back, because 2 lives were taken. So let's give this person a second chance at life. And I also believe that this was Tim's karmic return for deciding to do the right thing and not kill his family. So it was almost like karma was giving him a second chance, because could you imagine like how Tim's mind would have been going back home to that ruin and then having to take a dead son home? That's just too much. Victoria too, like it would have destroyed them even more. So that was karma's way of softening the blow for the Rattlers, because they still have to face some things when they get back, but one less thing, you know, with Lachlan surviving. And I was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. So now the guests are leaving. You have the Rattlers on the boat. And Tim, you know, he just lays it out. He says, he doesn't tell him what's going to happen, but he tells him when we get home, things are going to be different. Things are going to change, but we'll be all right. We'll get through it because we're strong. We're a family. And, you know, they're just going to have to face that. I hope he does, side note, I hope because season 4 was picked up, I hope they're able to add to this season, because this was a really good season. This was a really good season, and there's a lot of unfinished business, especially with the Rattlers. Like, I want to see the aftermath. So, they all get their electronics back. Tim doesn't even bother to check his phone. Everybody else is checking their phone, but Tim's like, forget it. Tim goes to walk over to the edge of the boat, which I thought he was going to jump, but I guess he didn't. Then you see the 3 friends on a different part of the boat, and they're looking off. You know, Kate looks off to the side, and she sees the ocean. So the 3 friends are in a happy place, and, you know, I guess they're going to have a more honest relationship as they get older and, you know, speak more from the heart. So at least the 3 friends got to have a happy ending. Now it has this ending montage kind of letting us know where all the characters end up after the boat scene. So you've got Gary. Gary lives on. Gary's sitting at his house, hosting, no, at the beach, looking afar. Chloe's, talking to this young man, and, Gary is toasting to her. So I guess that fantasy is true for him to see her be with someone else, because she's flirting with another guy, and then she looks over at Gary, and then Gary kind of gives her the okay. And I was like, oh, okay. Then you got Valentin and his friends. They're taking shots. The girls are with them, and I guess they get to continue under the ruse of living in Thailand as refugees or, escapees from Russia or whatever. Then you've got Frank. He has returned back to his sobriety and his faith, so he is meditating and practicing at a monastery. And then you got Guy, Tak, and Mook hugging each other, right? Embracing each other. And then you see Guy Tak driving Sritala. It looks like she was coming from or going to a memorial service. Hey, stop barking. Stop it. Stop it. Y'all, I'm in a hotel. My dog. Coconut, stop. I'm at a hotel, so noises make her get a little funky. But anywho, so yeah, now Guy Tak has, since the guards were killed, remember? Guy Tak is now Sritala's bodyguard and driver. So he's driving her off. And then at the beginning of the season, it looked like there was one body being pushed. But then the camera angle throws us off like that for a reason, because there's always one death. We'll know at the end. You have two bodies being pushed off, wheeled into the plane, which we know now is Chelsea and Rick. Then you got Belinda. Big money Belinda. She is rich now. She's on a boat. She's going home, looking off into the sunset, a new woman. And she leaves happy. And there was a saying, I wrote it down, but I forgot the context behind it, so I'm not gonna say it because I can't tie it in. But man, that was a season for your ass. That was a good episode. I wouldn't have thought, if anything, I would have thought someone from the Ratliff family was gonna die. I mean, yes, I guess you could have thought Rick was gonna die, but I thought Rick was gonna be at peace. I thought Rick would have at least been murdered by the guards. I mean, I guess he did get killed by a guard, but I don't know, man. I'm still stumped. I'm still stumped because I just feel so bad for Chelsea. I do. I feel so bad for Chelsea, but again, you hitch your bride to the wrong wagon, and that's what happens. Let that be a lesson to us girls. Do not latch on to no man that just, is hell-bent on living a life of misery. You can't save them. Otherwise, you're going to be wearing them demons with them. And they'll be the end of you. Literally. Let me know what you guys thought, right? What did you think of the episode? What did you think of the season? Where would you like for them to film their next location? Like, okay, so we've got Maui out of the way. We've got Sicily out of the way. Now Thailand. Maybe Mexico? Who knows, right? Who knows? All right, guys. On that note, I'm going to leave you because I'm getting tired. I need to relax. I'm trying to get a workout in, too, because the gym is 24 hours here at the hotel. And since I'm not on a schedule, I can get up at 3 in the morning and work out if I wanted to. All right, you guys go out and enjoy life as well. Love yourself. Love your life. Live day by day. Be mindful of karma. It does return, whether we want to admit it or not. All right, peace and blessings, guys. Bye.